Royal family insiders were stunned when King Charles appeared to hand everything to Prince William just as a new Camilla scandal began closing in. The move was not announced with anger. It did not come through a dramatic palace speech. It came quietly, through a shift in power that made one thing clear: the next royal era would belong to William. And that is what made Camilla vulnerable. For years, Charles had protected the world around him, his wife, her family, and the private arrangements that came with his long road to the throne. But once William stepped forward, those old protections no longer looked certain. A scandal that once might have been contained suddenly became something larger. Because this was no longer only about Camilla. It was about what King Charles was willing to give William and what William might do with that power next. The first clue appeared on July 24, 2024, inside the Duchy of Cornwall's integrated annual report. Most of the document covered land, farms, housing, investment, environmental work, and the estate's financial performance. But one entry involved Annabel Elliot, an interior designer who also happened to be Camilla's sister. The duchy reported that Elliot had received £19,625 in fees and commission. It had also paid £12,316 for furniture, furnishings, and stock purchased for duchy properties. Her work covered holiday accommodation, estate offices, and the duchy nursery. The accounts presented these payments as normal commercial transactions conducted at arm's length. The document did not accuse Elliot of unlawful behavior, hidden payments, or improper work. But that was not why the entry attracted attention. Elliot had worked on buildings connected to Charles for years. She was not simply a designer selected without any connection to the family. She was the sister of the woman who had become queen. The report also contained a detail about timing. The payments covered work completed before Charles stopped being Duke of Cornwall. By March 31, 2024, the amount still owed to Elliot was listed as zero. Her paid role had reached its end. No palace announcement explained the change. William did not issue a statement saying he had removed Camilla's sister. Camilla did not respond publicly. Charles did not defend the old arrangement. The ending became visible because the duchy was required to publish its accounts. That silence made the detail more powerful. William had inherited an organization shaped by Charles over more than 5 decades. He could have allowed every advisor, supplier, and family connection to continue without review. Instead, his first complete year in control revealed a different team and a changing system. The end of Elliot's work became the first visible boundary between Charles's duchy and William's duchy. It also raised a difficult question. Had an ordinary professional arrangement simply reached its natural conclusion? Or had William decided that Camilla's family would not carry the same access into the next royal era? The answer begins on the day the estate stopped belonging to Charles. Queen Elizabeth II died at Balmoral on September 8, 2022. Charles became king immediately. At the same moment, William became the new Duke of Cornwall. The transfer did not require a private agreement between father and son. It happened automatically because William was now the monarch's eldest son and heir. Charles addressed the nation the following evening. He announced that William would also become the Prince of Wales, placing his son in the position Charles had occupied for more than 50 years. The title Duke of Cornwall brought something more practical. It placed William in control of one of the monarchy's largest and most important estates. The duchy was created in 1337 by King Edward III to provide an independent income for the heir to the throne. Its holdings later grew to include farms, commercial buildings, housing projects, coastlines, quarries, and large areas of rural land. By March 2026, its investment property was valued at more than £1.2 billion. Its holdings covered roughly 128,000 acres across England and Wales. William could not sell the entire duchy and place the money in his private bank account. Its land and capital must be preserved for future dukes of Cornwall, but he receives the annual revenue surplus. He also guides strategy, appoints advisors, chairs the main governing council, and decides which priorities will define the estate during his time in control. That made the transfer a major shift in royal power. Charles had spent most of his adult life shaping the duchy around his views on architecture, farming, conservation, and rural development. Places such as Poundbury became closely identified with his personal vision. Then control moved to William in a single day. Charles had gained the crown, but he had lost direct authority over the organization he had spent decades building. William now possessed his own income, professional team, estate network, and institutional base. He no longer depended entirely on his father's household to support his public role. At first, the transfer looked routine. The heir had inherited the estate because royal rules required it. But William did not simply receive Charles's system and leave it untouched. He began reviewing how it operated. One of the first connections to disappear belonged to Camilla's sister. And that is where an automatic royal transfer began to feel like a personal line being drawn. Annabel Elliot had a real career before the duchy payments attracted attention. She worked as an interior designer and antique specialist. Her connection to Charles's properties grew after he married Camilla in April 2005. The work suited Charles's interests. Buildings connected to the duchy often had to protect historic character while functioning as offices, commercial spaces, nurseries, or holiday accommodation. Elliot worked on those interiors and helped purchase furniture and furnishings. The accounts recorded payments for identifiable services. They described the arrangement as commercial, and the expenditure was placed openly inside audited financial reports. But the family connection remained impossible to ignore. Camilla's sister was being paid by the estate controlled by Camilla's husband. The arrangement lasted through much of Charles's time as Duke of Cornwall. During those years, Elliot's work became part of an estate shaped closely by Charles's personal taste. Then Charles became king. William inherited the contracts, advisors, habits, and professional relationships that had developed under his father. He also inherited the responsibility to decide which ones still served the duchy. Every transfer of leadership creates that moment. Some relationships remain because they are essential. Others end because the new person wants different ideas, different advisors, or a clearer distance from the previous leadership. The records show the result. Elliot's paid work covered the period before Charles left the duchy. William did not continue the same arrangement during his first full year in control. That did not amount to an open attack on Camilla. William did not challenge her marriage, her title, or her place beside Charles. He made a decision inside the organization that belonged to him. That distinction was careful. It was also powerful. The duchy funds William's household, official duties, and long-term projects. The people working inside it help build the structure that will support him until he becomes king. William could respect Camilla as queen while refusing to carry every connection from his father's life into his own operation. He did not need to say that publicly. The accounts said enough. A relationship tied closely to Charles and Camilla had ended at the exact point William gained control. But for William, Camilla could never be only another member of the royal family. Her presence carried the memory of the most painful years of his childhood. William is the heir to Charles. He is also the eldest son of Princess Diana. Those two roles have forced him to live with a conflict the palace can manage, but never completely remove. Charles and Diana's separation was announced in December 1992, when William was 10 years old. Their marriage had already been collapsing under private strain and intense public attention. Charles's relationship with Camilla became permanently connected to that collapse. The marriage ended in divorce in August 1996. 1 year later, Diana died in Paris on August 31, 1997. William was 15. He walked behind his mother's coffin as cameras followed every step. Years later, he would be expected to accept his father's marriage to the woman many people still connected with Diana's unhappiness. William did not publicly attempt to stop that marriage. He attended when Charles and Camilla married at the Windsor Guildhall on April 9, 2005. He later appeared beside Camilla at family services, national ceremonies, and royal celebrations. Queen Elizabeth gave Camilla her public support. Camilla became queen consort after Charles's accession and was later styled simply as Queen. William accepted the royal structure built around his father's decision. But acceptance did not erase the past. Every public appearance involving William and Camilla carries two different royal timelines. One belongs to the current reign, where Camilla stands beside Charles as queen. The other returns to Diana, the broken marriage, and two boys who lost their mother. William cannot build his future reign around revenge. As heir, he must protect stability and work with the people occupying senior royal positions. But duty does not require him to preserve every professional relationship surrounding Camilla's family. That is why the Elliott decision carried more meaning than an ordinary staffing change. William did not confront Camilla in public. He did not attempt to remove her title or prevent her from supporting the king. He used authority in the one place that belonged clearly to him. The duchy was now his responsibility. Its spending, advisors, staff, and direction would shape his work as heir. For Charles, Camilla was the wife who had supported him through years of criticism. For William, she was the queen he had to work beside while carrying Diana's memory. The palace could arrange photographs showing unity. It could not remove the history standing behind them. Then Charles's health forced William and Camilla into even more important positions. Buckingham Palace released the announcement on February 5, 2024. Charles had been diagnosed with cancer and had begun regular treatment. Doctors advised him to postpone public-facing duties while continuing state business and official paperwork. Charles remained king. There was no abdication. No regency had begun. Government papers continued reaching him, and his constitutional authority remained intact. But monarchy is not conducted through documents alone. The sovereign must attend ceremonies, receive guests, visit communities, lead national moments, and remain visible during periods of uncertainty. When Charles reduced that side of his work, the pressure moved toward the people closest to the crown. Only 2 days after the cancer announcement, William conducted an investiture at Windsor Castle. The ceremony was part of his normal work, but its timing gave it greater meaning. The future king was appearing before the country while his father underwent treatment. Camilla also increased her public workload. She represented Charles, attended engagements, and gave the monarchy continuity during his absence. Yet, there was a limit to what she could carry. Camilla could support the sovereign. She could not become the next sovereign. That position belonged to William. William was also eligible to serve as a Councillor of State. Under British law, councillors can perform certain official functions when the monarch is temporarily unavailable. They may attend Privy Council meetings, receive ambassadors, or sign routine documents, but important powers remain restricted. Temporary delegation does not quietly turn an heir into king. Charles could not privately transfer the crown to William while continuing to reign. The handover had to happen through preparation. William could receive more experience. He could represent Charles at major events. He could manage the estate attached to the heir. He could build the household, advisors, and financial structure needed for the future. That is where the word everything begins to take shape. It does not mean Charles signed one secret document and surrendered the monarchy. It means nearly every tool that can be transferred before the crown itself is already gathering around William. Charles's illness accelerated that process. The controversy involving Camilla's sister then showed something equally important. William was not accepting those responsibilities as a passive deputy. He was using them to build his own system. The Duchy of Cornwall is governed through a structure known as the Prince's Council. William chairs it. During his first full year as Duke, he chaired all 4 of its main meetings. He also attended meetings involving finance, audits, rural affairs, and the charitable foundation connected to the estate. These were not ceremonial appearances designed for photographs. The meetings dealt with budgets, investment, risk, housing, farming, environmental work, and the future use of the duchy's land. The annual report described William as actively leading the organization. It also recorded that a new team had been established. Governance systems were reviewed. Specialist advisors were added. Links between the duchy, William's household, and his charitable organizations became closer. That is how a real transfer of authority often begins. It starts with meetings. Then come appointments, access to financial information, and control over the people permitted to advise the leader. William was receiving detailed information about the estate's money and long-term risks. He was meeting employees and tenants. He was learning which decisions required government approval and which belonged to him. The duchy does not operate without restrictions. Major property transactions above £500,000 generally require approval from HM Treasury. The accounts are independently audited and presented to Parliament. Those safeguards prevent the Duke of Cornwall from treating the estate like an ordinary private fortune. Within those limits, William still possesses considerable influence. By 2026, his direction had become clearer. The duchy announced plans to invest £500 million over the following decade in communities, housing, local economies, nature, and the long-term strength of the estate. That was not the program of an heir waiting quietly behind his father. It was a 10-year plan capable of continuing beyond political changes and possibly beyond Charles's reign. William was placing his priorities onto land his father once controlled. Charles had emphasized architecture, traditional communities, farming, and environmental protection. William retained several of those interests, but gave greater visibility to housing and homelessness. His choices were producing a distinct royal identity. That larger restructuring gave the Elliott decision its proper context. Her role did not end inside an organization that otherwise remained frozen in Charles's era. It ended while William was reviewing governance, adding advisors, and creating a new team. The change was part of a wider movement from Charles's network to William's. And William's authority did not remain inside estate meetings for long. A future king must learn how to represent the country beyond Britain. He must enter rooms filled with presidents, monarchs, prime ministers, and religious leaders without appearing like a visitor waiting for his father. William had been preparing for that responsibility for years. Charles's age and cancer treatment gave those appearances new weight. One of the clearest examples followed the death of Pope Francis. William traveled to Vatican City for the funeral on April 26, 2025, representing his father at St. Peter's Square. Charles still held the crown, but William stood for the British monarchy during an event watched across the world. That is how succession begins to feel real before it formally occurs. The heir becomes familiar in places where the sovereign would normally be expected. Foreign leaders begin treating him not only as a prince, but as the man with whom they may one day conduct state business. William also supported Charles during state visits. He helped welcome visiting leaders and joined formal events where diplomacy and royal ceremony met. He attended national commemorations and ceremonies connected directly to the crown's continuity. Charles also gave him new military responsibilities. In May 2024, the king formally appointed William Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Air Corps. The moment carried an additional family tension. Harry had served with that branch during his military career, including in Afghanistan. But the honorary position went to William, the working heir who remained at the center of royal duty. Each appointment added another piece to William's preparation. He already controlled the duchy, its income, and its professional structure. Now he was gaining military connections, diplomatic experience, and greater visibility at national events. He was not replacing Charles one day at a time. Charles resumed public engagements and continued leading the monarchy. But William was increasingly placed wherever the future sovereign needed to be. That made the contrast with Camilla unavoidable. Camilla could stand beside Charles and support the present reign. She could represent causes, attend engagements, and serve as the king's closest companion. She could not inherit his constitutional authority. William could. No private loyalty between Charles and Camilla could alter that reality. The next question was whether Camilla's position gave her any authority to slow William's independence. The answer lies in the difference between a queen and the monarch. Camilla's royal position became secure before Charles inherited the throne. On February 6, 2022, Queen Elizabeth marked the 70th anniversary of her accession with a message addressing Camilla's future. The Queen said it was her sincere wish that Camilla would be known as Queen Consort when Charles became king. The message removed one of the greatest uncertainties surrounding Charles's future reign. After years of public anger connected to Diana, Camilla had received support from the monarch herself. Charles later described Camilla's loyalty and public service in his first address as king. Her place beside him was no longer temporary or unofficial. She had entered the center of the monarchy, but her authority still had a clear boundary. A queen consort supports the sovereign. She does not hold sovereignty herself. Camilla cannot alter the legal line of succession. She cannot move ahead of William or place her own children inside the path to the crown. After William come Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. That order is established through law, not through Charles's personal preference or Camilla's influence. Public ceremonies can make the distinction less obvious. Camilla may wear a crown. She may sit beside Charles during important ceremonies. Her image appears alongside his, and her public role has grown since his accession. But Charles remains sovereign. William's power comes from a different source. He is the heir. He controls the duchy attached to that position. He chairs its council and manages the institutional structure supporting his work. That is why he could end the old arrangement involving Elliot. He did not need Camilla's permission to decide who worked for the duchy. He did not need Charles to manage the estate on his behalf. The transfer in September 2022 had already placed that authority in William's hands. Two royal centers were now operating at the same time. Charles and Camilla stood at the center of the present reign. William was building the structure of the next one. Those two centers could cooperate. They could appear together and protect the monarchy's public image. But they did not need to share every employee, advisor, or family connection. Camilla had secured the royal position many people once believed she would never hold. Her sister's paid place inside the duchy did not survive William's arrival. And as the number of working royals declined, Charles became even more dependent on the son whose independence was becoming impossible to contain. The working royal family was already shrinking when Charles became king. Prince Harry and Meghan had left full-time royal duties. Prince Andrew was no longer performing official public work. The institution had fewer senior figures available for ceremonies, overseas visits, investitures, and national events. Then, illness affected its central members. Charles began cancer treatment. Around the same period, Catherine, Princess of Wales, stepped away from public work while receiving her own treatment and recovering privately. William was caught between two duties. The monarchy needed the heir. His wife and children needed a husband and father. During 2024, William limited parts of his schedule to support Catherine. That decision showed he would not allow palace demands to erase his family responsibilities. But the long-term pressure remained. As his public schedule increased again, every appearance carried more than its official purpose. When William represented Charles, viewers were also watching the person who would eventually replace him. A smaller monarchy made that fact harder to hide. Charles could depend on Camilla, Anne, Edward, and Sophie. Each could perform valuable work and provide public continuity. None could become the next sovereign. Only William combined direct succession, public duty, international standing, and the financial structure provided by the duchy. His Kensington Palace household was also becoming more important. It managed his public program and supported the growing responsibilities of the Prince and Princess of Wales. The Royal Foundation ran their major charitable projects. The Earthshot Prize gave William an international environmental platform. Homewards placed homelessness at the center of his domestic program. The duchy offered land, staff, and financial resources capable of turning some of those ideas into physical projects. The separate pieces now formed one clear pattern. Charles's accession transferred the duchy. William used that authority to reshape its team. The paid connection involving Camilla's sister ended. Charles's illness increased William's public burden. The smaller royal workforce made the heir more difficult to replace. International ceremonies gave him experience before succession. Long-term estate plans allowed him to build an identity separate from his father. Charles did not need to announce that William was receiving everything. The movement could be seen through the accumulation of responsibility. Charles remained sovereign. William controlled the institution designed to support the next sovereign. The final question was how much had already moved, and what Charles still held for himself. Charles has not abdicated. He remains king and continues performing constitutional and public duties. The crown has not been transferred through a private family decision, but almost every major tool William needs for the next reign is already moving into place. First came the Duchy of Cornwall. Its 2026 report recorded a distributable surplus of approximately £21.6 million. That income supports William's household, official work, and charitable program without requiring him to depend directly on Charles. Then came the workforce. The duchy employs more than 200 people across property, finance, conservation, agriculture, and community development. It operates through 8 offices and several estate businesses. William chairs the council overseeing that organization. He meets tenants and employees. He receives advice on investment and risk. He helps decide which people will shape its future strategy. Then came control over long-term development. The duchy includes Nansleden, where homes, shops, workplaces, and public spaces are being built over many years. It includes Poundbury, the community closely connected to Charles's architectural ideas. Its holdings reach farms, commercial properties, coastlines, and land across places, including the Isles of Scilly. These are not simply royal homes. They are working businesses and communities whose decisions affect thousands of people. William now directs their future within the duchy's legal restrictions. Then came public authority. He conducts investitures, welcomes foreign leaders, represents Charles overseas, accepts military appointments, and stands at national ceremonies. Then came constitutional preparation. As heir and a counselor of state, William is positioned to support the sovereign during temporary absence. He cannot permanently take the king's central powers while Charles remains on the throne. But he can learn how the machinery operates. Finally came independence from his father's old professional network. The end of Annabel Elliott's paid duchy role showed that William would not automatically preserve every arrangement connected to Charles and Camilla. That is where the controversy reaches its central meaning. It did not cause Charles to remove Camilla. It did not threaten her title or drive her away from the king. It revealed how separate William's operation had already become. Charles chose Camilla as his wife and queen. But the future monarchy could not be organized around her family. It had to be built around William. The king still holds the crown, yet the land, income, staff, strategy, experience, and public expectation needed for the next reign are now concentrated around his eldest son. That is what Charles has handed over. Not everything in one dramatic moment, everything in carefully measured pieces. The Camilla-linked controversy exposed the boundary between the present reign and the one being prepared behind it. Charles could protect his wife's position beside him. He could not require William to preserve every relationship from the old royal system. A single line inside a financial report revealed that change. William was no longer simply waiting behind his father. He was already controlling the structure that would survive Charles's reign. If you value documentaries built from royal records and carefully checked timelines, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. One final question remains. Did Charles accelerate this handover because his age and health made it necessary? Or did the controversy surrounding Camilla's family finally force him to accept that the future king must be free to build a monarchy of his own?